Thank you for joining us wherever you are. This podcast episode is brought to you by the Old Ways Actual Play team. This actual play uses the 7th edition Call of Cthulhu tabletop role-playing game rules by Chaosium. This actual play is performed by adults and in an adult setting. While we try very hard to stick to language for all ages, listeners should know that this podcast may include mature themes. All content, including names, places, events, companies, and etc., that may bear resemblance to entities living or dead is strictly coincidental. My name is Michael Diamond, and for tonight's game, I will be your keeper. Thank you for joining us again on another episode of the Old Ways Podcast. I'm your keeper, Michael, and we turn to Horror on the Orient Express, where we are back in Belgrade. As we like to do at the top of the show, we would like to thank you, the listener, and especially you, the Patreon supporter. If you'd like to, you can check out what we have to offer at patreon.com/theoldwayspodcast, and we look forward to seeing you there. And so, as I like to do, I like to get to introductions to my right.
Hi there, this is Mike, and I play James Robert Fraser, who has just very quietly and surreptitiously slipped out of the room where all the noise is going on.
Yes, indeed. It does seem there was a bit of a verbal altercation that was building, and you decided to, better part of valor would be to perhaps go get some tea. To Mr. Fraser's right.
Hi, this is Rena. I play Lady Elisabeth Fitzroy, and the professor and I are not on good terms right now, or maybe ever again.
Yeah, I mean, there is something to be said for someone going through another person's mail, but in the professor's defense, he said it was already opened. That remains to be seen. We are again in the Missing Giles formation, although I hear that our minor will be turning very shortly. So I will just say to Lady Elisabeth's right.
Hi, this is Miranda, and I play Maggie Bellinger, and I'm just really anxious to get this show on the road, or the tracks, or off the tracks.
Oh, I've no doubt it'll go off the rails very shortly. And last but most certainly not least.
I'm Martin, and I'm playing Richard Courtney, and Richard's fed up with all the time that this etiquette's taking. He just wants to get on with it.
Yeah. He and I are in the same boat in that regard. So we're going to raise the curtain, roughly speaking, where we left, but we're going to advance it just, say, a few hours. So we have advanced it to the point of roughly dinner. And so some parties have been separated, some plans are being considered, and we'll pick up with some of the group getting their evening supper at the hotel. So I guess the real question is, for me to start would be, Richard, are you and Maggie getting dinner inside the restaurant in the hotel, or are you having it brought up to the room?
I think there's possibly the option. I mean, Richard was under the impression that Alexander might be staying at another hotel. So perhaps we might eat out at another hotel to see if we can find the guy.
It could be an interesting proposal. There are several rather luxurious hotels in the space here. A couple come to mind, obviously the Europa, which you've had an opportunity to consider, the Moskva, and then, of course, Hotel Petrograd, which is what you're in.
Yeah, can we ask at the front, what is the most expensive hotel in the city?
Hi, I know that your hotel's nice and all, but it's kind of shit, so which one is the real nice one?
No, I mean, I'll try to ask in a nice, light way. I will reinforce how much we're enjoying the accommodations here, but that we would like to sample the dining elsewhere. Not that the food isn't bad here, or that it is bad here, but it's good. It's good here, but actually, variety is the spice of life.
So you get a very forgiving member of staff who tells you that they understand that some visitors to the hotel here who would like a slightly quieter dining experience might go to the Europa because it is a little further from Belgrade Station. It's not so close to the train station, and so it's not as noisy. Now, of course, it does put you a little close to the markets, and while the hotel could be nice, it is a little closer to, say, the market people. But if that's your choice.
Is that the same hotel we went to?
Yeah.
Okay, so we know where it is.
Yes, it is the same hotel that you met the doctor from the museum at and had the body part examined.
Mm-hmm.
And where Richard nearly got crushed to death.
So, Richard, the nicest one is that hotel we were at earlier. We could go back there for dinner, or we could try the third option.
I don't know. I mean, we could ask, I suppose, and see if... why don't we do both of them? We could do one of them, and we could ask if there's an Alexander.
We do dinner at one and drinks at the other?
Yes. Yes, 2 for the price of 1. What a splendid idea.
Okay, so the two of you just going to go leave for dinner then?
Yes.
Fantastic. All right, so you are off and running, maybe not literally, to, we'll say, the Hotel Europa for dinner. And that will leave us with Lady Elisabeth, who's gone back to her room to examine a letter, perhaps to write some correspondence or to consider what should be done next. Mr. Fraser, you had left the kerfuffle before it sort of got kicked up. What were your plans? What would you have done with the intervening time, I should say?
Yes, so I think the first thing Fraser wanted to do is see if he could find Paul, because he'd taken a little sample of some substance that they'd found on the jeweler that he wanted to have examined, just to see if it was a poison or had any in particular chemical components or anything like that.
Yeah, tracking Paul down is not hard at all. He has been basically sitting watch over Simon after his wounds. And he has been reading. You've seen him doing some writing out just outside of his hotel room, sort of in the cafe area. He's been, if he's cataloging things but finding him is not hard at all.
Paul, there you are.
Oh, sir, he stands up.
Oh, no. Sit down. You don't have to stand up when I come in.
Sits down.
I think we'll be having something to eat very soon if you would care to join us.
Certainly.
How is our patient?
I'm a little worried.
Really?
Yeah, he's not healing as quickly as I thought he would be.
What exactly is the nature of his injuries?
They're internal. That's the concern.
Aye, yes, that's not good.
I'm checking and rechecking every couple of hours to make sure that he's not continuing to bleed through. But I think he'll make it. Simon's a fairly strong individual.
Now, I know you're a very talented man, but there's no shame if this is beyond your capabilities, if this requires a level of care that you're not able to provide in a hotel. Does he need hospitalization? Does he need surgery?
I don't think so. And to be perfectly honest, I'm not sure how much I would trust a place here.
Really?
Well, the war did a lot of damage to Belgrade, including any of their medical facilities. They won't have as much modern equipment.
Yes, I see what you mean. Yes, while the city is building itself up again, I suppose it's got a lot of work still needs to be done. Well, if you're sure, but please, if there's anything you need or any additional help that you need, then don't hesitate to say anything. Don't feel that you have to shoulder this burden on your own.
Oh, he's not much of a burden, at least now. He's fairly horizontal, so.
Well, I might pop up myself in a wee while and just sit with him and keep an eye on him for a bit, give you a chance to have a break and get some rest. I must say my reason for coming to speak with you is twofold, really. I don't know if you heard about the business with the professor at the jewelers yesterday and this morning.
I heard that something went missing. Could hear that through the walls.
Aye, yes, indeed. Something that is very particular to the professor, very close to his heart, so to speak. He had brought it to the jeweller to have it repaired, and it would appear that during the course of the night there was a break-in, and not only was the item taken from the jeweller's, but the jeweller himself, well, not to put too fine a point on it, the man was murdered.
Murdered?
Aye, that's correct. That's our belief in the theft. We believe we know precisely who it was that stole this item, and we're pretty sure that he or one of his entourage, if he has such a thing, is responsible for the death of the jeweller.
Well, that sounds horrible.
Aye, it is, and really that's why I wanted to talk to you. I've had a wee chat with her ladyship about this as well, so whatever I have to say, you know that she is in accord with. What it really boils down to, I suppose, is this. We have been travelling together for a wee while now, ever since we met you in France, and I'm sure you understand, and you've seen a number of rather peculiar occurrences during your time with us. Is that not true?
Oh, so without a doubt.
What do you make of all that?
He sits back a little bit in his chair and puts his pen down. Sometimes I try not to think about it. I think when I think about it too much, I get a little anxious. I get a little worried that this whole thing is like a bookshelf falling over in slow motion. And you can only put so many books back onto the shelf before invariably something will fall. Maybe that's a person. Maybe that's a city. I tried to steel myself and say that the people I'm with are trying to stop something terrible from happening. And so in service to them and thus to something greater, that's why I'm with them.
Well, that's very, very astute observation. What do you know of what you believe we are trying to stop?
I know what little I have heard based off of some of the discussions that I've had with the professor, which are sometimes a little dizzying.
They are, indeed. I myself find them quite extraordinary and unbelievable in some instances. However, some of the things I have seen and experienced in the last few weeks, month, 2 months, however long it's been, it's so hard to keep track of the time sometimes, but I have been forced to confront things that I thought would be impossible, and with my own 2 eyes I've seen them. So I've had to come to terms with the fact that there are, as the bard puts it, more things in heaven and earth. But my point is this, Paul. My point is this: you have shown a great deal of courage and fortitude, staying with us and sticking by us when, well, a lesser man would have simply turned his back and walked away. And for that, I think you deserve a little more insight into exactly what the situation we have here, so that you may make a decision based off of actual knowledge and understanding rather than simply, gratitude and a sense of duty. The fact of the matter is there is something that we are attempting to achieve, which we have reason to believe, if we fail in this undertaking, might have disastrous consequences right across Europe. You have seen these pieces, this mannequin, for want of a better word, that we have been retrieving from various places on our travels here on the train. These are all part of a greater whole, an item known as a simulacrum. Quite exactly how it works or what it does, I know little of, I understand little of, But I do know that there are forces at work, and we have encountered some of these forces. We have encountered the gentlemen in Lausanne. We have encountered these gentlemen who wear the fezzes that hail from not far from here, I do believe. We have encountered additional forces, for want of a better word, that are trying to impede us in that. We believe that they have their own agendas. They want these pieces themselves, because when this thing is assembled, it is an item of some power. And when I say power, I do not mean political power, although perhaps that would be a side effect of it, but I mean of power to create havoc in the world. A power such as you read about in the Old Testament. Miracles, signs, prophecies, these things. And these are the things that I have had a great deal of difficulty coming to terms with, a great deal of difficulty admitting to myself even exist, but I cannot deny what I've seen with my own two eyes. But there is danger here, Paul. That is what I'm trying to impress upon you. There is great danger. The attack at the train station on Richard, when he was shot, he nearly died. We still don't know who that was, whether that was one of these factions, whether that's connected with the theft of the item that he has in his possession. Well, he no longer has in his possession. The attack that has rendered poor Simon on almost at the point of death. You have said yourself he is not recovering as quickly as you would hope. There is great danger here. All these forces that are working against us, trying to impede us and trying to snatch this item, this power for themselves, which we are trying to prevent. We are trying to ensure that they cannot, because the harm that we believe they will deal right across the country, this country and all adjacent countries, it doesn't bear thinking about. Now, our end goal, is to assemble this piece and destroy it, so that harm cannot be done, that power cannot be wreaked on the innocent. Now, I'm sorry if this all seems a little melodramatic, but this is the undertaking that we have accepted, that we have set our sights on. And I just thought it was important that you knew exactly what was at stake here.
Yeah, I think Paul looks a little gobsmacked, to be honest. He looks sort of a little taken aback by the totality of your statements.
I do understand, Paul, that this is a great deal to take on, and I wouldn't have even broached the subject if I hadn't already spoken to her ladyship. But the fact of the matter is, you are a free individual. If you wish to stay with us, we would be very, very glad to have you along and very happy to see you with us. But given everything that I've just said, if you wish to walk away from this danger, and there is danger and threat of death at every turn now, we believe, then nobody will think any the less of you for it.
He sits back up just ever so slightly and tries to get hold of his tea. A simulacrum, which is what I have heard it referred to as, it's a representation. It's an imitation of something.
Right.
So are we, and I say we as in your group, are we aware of what that image is?
I believe, and there is still an element of uncertainty in this, that it is an imitation of a human being. Whether it is an imitation of a specific human being or not is another matter. However, and I'll be candid with you here, Paul, Miss Bellinger's connection to these pieces concerns me deeply.
Paul nods.
And I think you know what I'm talking about here, because you've experienced it firsthand yourself.
I do. Miss Bellinger and I have talked on 2 occasions specifically about her rather deep connection to those pieces. She seems compelled to continue going until she gets every single one of them. I wonder, do you think she means to put it on?
I hadn't even considered that. Is it something that can be worn? It didn't look that way when I've seen the pieces. But there is something.
Make a psychology roll for me.
Yeah, sure. Ooh, that is a failure. 88 over 62. However, I am more than happy to push it.
Would you? How would you like to push it?
I pull up my chair a little bit closer to him and lower my voice slightly. I say, Paul, is there something you're not telling me? Do you know more of Miss Bellinger's connection with this thing and what it's doing to her? Because, let me be quite clear, I believe it is exerting an effect upon her and not a wholesome one. You must speak if you do.
Go ahead and roll.
And that is a 36. Not quite a hard success.
Okay. Paul turns the book that he was working in towards you. And you can see that he's made sort of a rough pencil drawing in here of several of the pieces that he has seen. And he says, I had the opportunity while everyone was out to get a better look at the pieces. And I thought that just in case anything were to happen of them, some sort of record should be maintained about what they looked like. And I'm no artist, but of course I spent time in Paris and amongst artists near the Seine, and I had an opportunity to catalog some things. And I'm a little concerned that everything that I have heard over the weeks we have been traveling together points me to something very specific. And I think that Miss Bellinger's plan is to collect them. And if what I heard is true of what happened in Venice, she plans to give them to someone to complete something, whether for her or for him.
I believe you are correct. Do you know who that someone is?
I know who you refer to him as.
And do you know him by another name?
No. He looks around. I don't like talking about him.
Are you aware that he is in the city with us now? We spoke with him.
Paul gets really pale.
Yes.
I was not aware. He sort of shakes his head no.
Aye. He has followed us. We have spoken to him on more than one occasion. I have spoken to him personally. He is not someone or some, and I kind of take a glance around, or something to be trifled with.
If Miss Bellinger seeks to, or has formed some alliance with him, it must be severed.
I could not agree more. His influence on her is, well, it scares me, frankly. The whole business between him and the pieces and her. It's like something has taken hold of her wits. And she's obsessed. I think that's the best way I can put it. She's obsessed with the whole concept of this thing and this man, if I can even use that word.
No. He shakes his finger at you. A very strange and almost staunch response from him. Not a man. No longer a man.
And I think at this point, Fraser kind of stops in his tracks and says, what do you mean no longer a man? Because he remembers exactly the conversation that he had in the crypt with the Comte, where he, if I'm recalling it correctly, he referred to himself as no longer a man.
That's correct. This is as you rightly say, a creature. Men do not live this long. The records of him going all the way back to the French Revolution, if those are true, which this group has spoken of at length, then that is several hundred years. No man lives that long.
And I think Fraser is now kind of, in his mind, he's kind of going back to Paris and back to the hospital, and the fact that he and Lady Elisabeth went downstairs to look at the records, and that's where they first encountered this thing, this man, creature, whatever he might be. And the fact that Paul worked at the hospital at the time as well. You know of this. Have you seen this thing at the hospital before we even met you?
I think you understand very little of what you're up against. And you watch just as the seconds tick by, and you see Paul's visage change. Like you watch the entire physical position, his stance, the way his shoulders sit, the way his face looks, it changes. He takes on a completely different attitude.
So I'm just wondering that my earlier psychology roll, does that give me any kind of insight into what this guy's agenda is? Because it seems to Fraser right now that there's something not right here.
Given his persuade roll, no.
Okay. What do you mean, Paul?
He sat below there for years. Dug in, bricked up, inside a hole in a wall. He was brought there when the courts and the magistrates would not sever him from life. He engaged in debased debauchery, rituals darker than you know. He gave himself over completely. I heard all about it. I heard him whisper through the bricks.
What is your connection with this thing?
My connection is the only thing staving off him coming from Miss Bellinger.
How?
I am acting in a reconnaissance fashion. He's very eager to reclaim all the pieces. Something which cannot be allowed. He's sown this dream into Miss Bellinger's head. And like the bright-eyed, naive American that she is, she's taken it full and complete. He's a very charming fellow, you understand.
No, I've seen his charm. I've also seen the horror.
This is not the time for you to get angry. You've got more than enough time for that.
Oh, I'm not angry, Paul. You'll know when I'm angry. I just need to understand exactly what it is you're doing. Are you working for him, against him? I don't understand. You seem to be saying that you're working to prevent him, but you're reconnaissance. Reconnaissance for who?
He plucks the candle at the middle of the table out. It's lit. He holds it up. He pushes the holder that was over just a little bit. He tips the candle horizontally. What happens when you burn a candle at both ends?
Well, it burns twice as bright for half as long.
That's correct. That is what Miss Bellinger is doing. She's hoping to reclaim all the pieces. And she might. But once she does, the light goes out.
So, what is it you want, Paul? You say you want to stop this from happening.
I want the comp dead.
Well, it seems that we are in accord on that particular matter.
Sadly, unfortunately, I've attempted to kill him 5 times now.
Am I understanding you correctly? Is this why you've stayed with us?
Absolutely. I have my own goals, Mr. Fraser.
I must confess I am shocked.
The pitiable, spineless person that you mostly know during our social interactions is a facade. It's an important one.
Who are you, really?
My name is Paul, he says, sort of gesturing to himself.
Aye, but you're no medical student, are you?
No. I am a medical student. I simply got very, very interested in my work while I was in Paris. And I heard through the bricks, I heard him whisper to me. He wanted me to feed him. He needs life essence. blood.
Aye, I've seen him take that.
Yes.
So you provided him with that of yourself, of others?
Not of myself. The hospital had reserves available. You see, I feel responsible.
Am I understanding you correctly, Paul, that this Comte had a hold on you, demanded that you provide it with sustenance, and then sent you along with us?
No. When he was most recently fed, a few weeks before you arrived, he had said that he wanted to get out, that he was tired of being holed up. My understanding is that your friend, Professor Courtney, and his benefactor, Dr. Smith, were at some event. You see, when someone goes after the simulacrum, the Comte knows, because he used to own it.
But I still don't understand what you meant by reconnoiter, your reconnaissance.
Yes, I am keeping an eye out for him. You see, he sees me as his patsy, his scout. I've convinced him of this.
Well, Paul. Still waters run deep, eh?
The concern I have, Mr. Fraser, is that nothing I have tried medically has worked. I have tried blood, which I know is dangerous, poisonous. Doesn't matter. He's able to consume it anyway. I don't even know if he understands that I have tried to kill him.
Is this while we have been traveling? You have been in communication?
Certainly. Certain aspects of your travel had to be revealed to him, all to keep the ruse going.
Why have you not spoken of this until now?
Because hardly with anyone within your group has the stable enough mind to understand the play here. You're all broken. You've all seen terrible things. You're unstable. Clearly, Italy proved this. And so as a near doctor, I made a medical decision.
But man, this could have been different. We could have worked together. Maybe this instability that you talk of wouldn't have reached the point it's at.
Maybe. Or we could have all turned on the Comte. And when all of the other ways you might try killing him wouldn't work, you'd all be dead.
We're still no closer to that solution, are we?
That is very true. But we're a little closer down the line to getting the rest of the pieces. And if the pieces, as you said, can be put together in a single pot and boiled away or whatever it is, perhaps that's the link that we need to make him a little bit more mortal again.
But what of Miss Bellinger?
Well, she's someone whose safety we're going to have to make paramount. She won't be convinced verbally that this charade or this farce needs to end. She's committed.
Mm-hmm.
She said herself in her own share of fevered dreams that she was willing to leap out a window with him.
I saw that myself.
Yeah. So her decision is already been made. The link will have to be broken between the two of them. That will mean likely that one of them will have to go. I would much prefer it be the Comte than her.
And this link that you speak of, this is intrinsically tied up with the simulacrum, or is this something separate? Something?
It's something else. It's something within the Comte that he has some sort of ability. He reaches into his satchel and he pulls out a small, thick book. And he says, "Do you read Latin?"
I do not, I'm afraid, no, but her ladyship does.
This book was written in Latin. It's transcribed from a priest in Romania. And it's rather interesting. It talks about these creatures and some of their abilities. One of which is the ability to charm others.
I see. Cast a spell upon them, you're saying. This one, I think I'm getting a handle on the bizarre nature of this whole situation. Something else comes up which Well, in for a penny, in for a pound, as they say.
That was the calculation that I made several weeks ago.
Well, Paul, I'm very glad that you've finally felt you can confide in us with this revelation. I must say, I'm still not entirely sure what to make of it. You have been deceiving us this whole time.
It's a matter of necessity.
Oh, well, you say. But it is only the fact that you have been keeping us alive, quite clearly, have saved us from grievous harm on several occasions now. That's the only thin thread of belief I have in your truthfulness.
Well, certainly, if I actually meant any of you harm, but I don't.
And the fact that you are trying to kill the Count, or so you say. You are not yourself in his thrall, under his thumb, or so you say.
He reaches underneath his shirt and you see him pull something out. It's small. It almost looks like a half moon. It's on a length of chain.
What is this?
It's a charm my mother gave me. It's a bent penny. I was given it at birth.
I do not know the significance of a bent penny. Is it some protection against the dark forces of darkness?
Like the evil eye, sort of, in the sense that people have a really hard time lying to me. They have a really hard time convincing me of certain things when I put my mind to it. Maybe it's the necklace, maybe it's me, but the comp's charms don't exactly work very well with me. I think they're better directed at women.
Well, I must say, I tip my hat to your mother.
Oh, I do too.
There surely is much more to you than meets the eye, Paul.
I've made some rather simple choices, actually.
Well, I suppose the next question I have for you is this. What do you intend now? You have shared this knowledge with me. You know that I will share it with the others, with her ladyship, and how they will respond to it, I can guess at, but cannot say for sure how well they will take the news.
Well, if the party does see fit to decide they would rather not have me with them, that is a choice that they can make. I think I have proven over the weeks that we have been together that my skills are valuable and that we have common goals.
And what would be your intention should we achieve these goals?
In all likelihood, once the simulacrum pieces are collected, I mean to see it destroyed, and in hope rid the world of a dangerous monster.
Well then. And I kind of just keep eye contact with him for a moment, just trying to ascertain whether I believe what he's saying, whether I think he's actually telling me the truth or dissembling to buy more time to do the bidding of his evil master.
So that's definitely a psychology roll.
Well, that is a 12, which is an extreme success.
Paul's not going to oppose you, so you feel like he's being forthright and honest about what he said. You get no trace of him trying to suppress the truth or get around anything. He seems very straightforward with you.
Not trying to trick me into trusting him.
It doesn't seem like it, no. Because he knows that he's put everything, all the cards are on the table now.
Well, Paul, you have given me a great deal to think about. And this does put a different complexion on our whole situation.
If you care, you can read through this. It's some of the collected attempts on dealing with the problem I've made myself. Medical attempts, anyway.
Yes, I would very much so, yes, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, he hands you like the sketch journal that he drew out the simulacrum pieces in. It's all there.
Thank you. The other thing I was going to ask you, and this is maybe by the by now, this man, this jeweler, we found this substance on his lips. It has a peculiar aroma. I was wondering if you would be able to run any tests or some sort on find some chemical analysis of it. I don't know whether that's even possible or not, to see if you can ascertain what it is, if it's a poison or something like that.
Certainly attempt to take it over and maybe get something out of it.
Thank you. It may come to nothing, but I think it is connected with the man who claims to be Her Ladyship's brother.
Oh, really?
Indeed.
All right, then. So we're going to change camera view to, we'll just say a nearby hotel cafe where a couple people are getting something to eat. So I'd like to know, what's the approach here? You go into the Europa. Richard, are you skulking around? Or are you being very covert with your movements, attempting to see if the comp's here? Or are you striding in, looking for people and demanding answers, or neither?
I think we're just going for dinner at the minute, and I think there's a good chance that Richard might ask one of the waiters about Alexander. He'd be able to guess his second name, I guess. Is that something he knows?
I think you've heard him referred to as Alexander Fitzgeorge.
Okay, brilliant.
We also read the letter, so maybe and I didn't have his name on it.
I think it was just the A at the bottom, if memory serves correctly. That's sort of his trademark.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I think that would be the plan, but unless Maggie's got another idea.
No, that sounds totally fine to me. I mean, I do have this nagging feeling now that we should kill Paul, but other than that, I have no idea where it came from, just absolutely out of nowhere. But just kidding. No, I think that sounds like a perfectly fine plan to me.
Okay. So you two get dinner. It's a very nice hotel. It offers you a ton of different selections for you to choose from. The food does obviously have we'll just say a flair of the space here. So there's definitely seasonal and seasoned food. It's definitely a little different than probably what you're used to from, say, home, Richard. Given Turkish food is a little bit more, well, just say it's a little bit more flavorful. There's not a lot of like bland meats and sauces. It's definitely stepped up. Anything specific that you want to cover during the meal, or?
Oh, I think Richard's going to ask Maggie, how is the travel guide progressing? I know you've made some work on it, but we've been somewhat tied up. I've not seen you take many photos recently.
You know, Richard, you're absolutely right. I've felt very distracted lately. My mind is preoccupied with things.
It's such a shame. I mean,
A lot has happened. You were shot, and we're trying to find these pieces, and so it's been difficult to keep up with, I'll admit.
I suppose I was going to write a little bit more to Professor Smith and try and get an update, but, he's never going to know where we are, is he?
Yes. I tried to sit down and write the other night, but I felt blocked of some sort, and when I tried to just let my thoughts flow out, it wasn't very coherent travel information.
I think some of those substances, those tonics that Paul hands out, I think they could addle the mind.
Oh, do you think that would help me with my writing?
No, not at all. I think if you were to abstain from them, you might
that's
have
what
clearer
you mean.
thought. Yes.
Oh, that's an interesting idea. I hadn't thought of that.
Well, you were fine before you started taking them, and now you're unable to. Well, I don't know. Right? Yes. Let's just say that. It could well be the tonics. There's always a price to pay for something. If it makes you feel better, it's probably taking away in another area. Otherwise, we'd be doing them all the time.
You may just be right, Richard. I will have to take that under consideration. Though that one he gave you the other day did smell quite nice. Or was that today? I don't know the passage of time these days.
It's all merging into one, isn't it? It's time time has less significance when you've been shot.
I'd imagine so.
Yes. Should we ask a waiter to see if he knows of this Alexander Fitzgeorge?
I think that would be a fine idea. I'd look around the room to see if I see any suspicious characters.
Make a hard spot hidden roll.
Okay. Or any gentlemen that look half like Lady Elisabeth.
Just half?
But creepier. Who knows?
We have seen him, of course, in the ice cream shop in Italy.
Oh, yes, we did. That's correct.
You know
That's
exactly
right. I look
what it
for
was
him then. I look for him then. Hard spot hidden. I rolled a 1.
Well, congratulations. Take 5 points of luck immediately on a critical roll. You are definitively certain that Alexander Fitzgeorge is not in this cafe space or area, but you do spot someone you have seen very recently. You spot a relatively young man who's having dinner at a table with a woman across from him. This is the gentleman that you met in the basement of the National Museum.
Oh, and he has does it look like a woman around his age?
It does not.
His mother? It's his mom.
It's not his mother. She's not old enough to be his mom, but she's not young enough to be his age.
Okay. So he likes an older woman, that's fine. Is he very far away?
He's across the way, yeah. He's a little... You'd have to be pretty direct if you were going to wave or yell, which would totally be within, what you would do.
I mean, my thought was to just stare until he senses that I'm staring, and then look my direction, and then give a smallish wave.
He smiles and waves just slightly.
I met that gentleman when I was with Lady Elisabeth at the museum. He was in the basement. He was a wealth of information.
Right. Well, I'll bear that in mind. Can you see any waiters?
Well, I think we have to motion them over here.
Ha. They're like buses. They all come at once, and there's never one when you want one.
2 waiters show up.
See, I told you.
Can I help you?
Yes, we were... it's a hard question to phrase exactly. I was wondering if you'd be able to tell me if one of our colleagues was here. I didn't want to make my presence known, if you understand, but it would be useful if I could establish whether he's staying at this hotel. We're planning a surprise, you see.
What does he look like? What is his name?
It's Mr. Fitzgeorge. And he gives him a rough description.
Fitzgeorge.
Yes.
I will check with the front desk.
Yes, I implore you, the discretion is of the essence here.
Of course, sir. Understood.
Right, thank you.
The other waiter stands there and says, Madam, do you need anything?
Oh, no, thank you. I'm quite fine right now.
More wine?
Yes.
He fills your glass and then walks off.
It's quite unusual. He didn't offer me anything at all. Oh, well.
Maggie, you pick up on the fact that Richard is both not wearing any glasses nor any sunglasses, and you realize that this room has really good lighting.
Mm-hmm.
And his eyes are very sparkly in this room.
Oh, boy. Richard, as time has passed, I suppose it's something that we've grown accustomed to, like like a scent when you're in a room for a while, and you don't smell it any longer, but then you leave and you walk back.
Are you suggesting I need to shower again?
No, that's not it at all, Richard. You're and I'm pointing to my eyes, and then him, and then my eye.
I need to wash my face.
No, Richard, your eyes are, dazzling tonight, to say the least. The colors and the...
Oh, right. Yes, sorry, I'd quite forgotten. We've been... Oh, yes. I'll... And Richard just sort of puts his hand over his... I'll pretend I've got a headache or something, and that, yes, maybe a migraine.
Yes, I'm wondering if it might be off-putting to the waitstaff.
Do you think that's why they keep coming over?
Well, then leaving and not offering you anything.
Ah, yes. I'll pretend I have a headache. Richard puts his head down and puts his sort of hand over his eyes as if he's trying to shield his eyes from the light.
A couple minutes later, the original waitstaff member comes over and says, "We did have such a man staying with us a couple of days ago, but he checked out yesterday."
Oh, well, that'll never do. Did he leave a forwarding address?
I don't believe so.
Right. Oh, well, that's kind of squashed our plans somewhat. We'd planned to have a lovely surprise for him. There's no way you could find out. I mean, perhaps, would it be appropriate for me to ask you to maybe phone the other hotels?
I could check with the porters here to see who handled his luggage.
Yes, I'd be very grateful. And Richard pulls out his and so I understand that the hotel has a business to run, and please accept this contribution for your effort.
Okay, how much are you giving them, Richard?
I say a tenner.
Ooh, wow. He takes it very graciously.
I cannot stress the importance of this surprise we're planning for him.
Of course. I see how serious it is.
You understand you're only 40 once. You can't catch up the next year, can you?
No. They only go in one direction. He hustles off. So I want to look in at Lady Elisabeth and find out that night, sort of after receiving the letter, what she spends her night doing.
She's going to write a letter to Ilyana.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't know how she'll get it to her, but she's made a habit of writing letters at most stops, occasionally picking up a postcard, that sort of thing. Being very circumspect with details, but also just don't think we'll be meeting in Italy again. We'll have to find some other rendezvous, but I would recommend not going back there. Just a hunch.
Yeah, it's probably top of mind, given the climate in Italy is not very it's not very comforting to someone like her, or really someone like you. Free thinking people.
Yes. So would do that first, and then kind of want to composite a list of all the things that I know about Alexander and his mother. I think from the vision or dreamlands, whatever it was that she doesn't quite know what to call it. All of that, and also anything Father might have said or dropped hints as to that he wasn't aware he was dropping hints to. Just trying to figure out some pieces of the puzzle, because knowledge is power, and if we're going to be meeting up with Alexander, it would be helpful to remember as much as possible.
Okay. Well, from some of the earliest memories that you have of your father, even the dream stuff that you sort of experienced when you were back at the estate, the visions that you get of that woman sort of standing next to your father and being in some sort of ritual space with him are pretty murky overall. You get visions in your memory of what she looked like. You remember there being a sort of painted mask over her eyes. It was a really beautiful shade of light blue. She wore a headdress that had an eight-pointed star at its center. Big, sort of medallion style large with a blue stone in the center. And then there were these multiple smaller stones around the top. And you remember seeing what you think are ram's horns on the side of her headdress. She's very, I don't want to say done up, but that's the idea, right? Whereas your father in that vision is a little, for lack of a better term, basic. He's very drab. He's sort of dressed in dark robes, which is very strange for you to see, even looking back into that memory, because it doesn't fit your father at all. He wouldn't be caught dead in robes. He was way too concerned with how he looked and his social presentation to be caught in, God, father in a bathrobe. What are you doing? Go get dressed. Like the idea of it. But he seemed very calm in that whole process. The part of the vision that where he sort of accepts what she offers him is still a little unnerving, because it's this strange drink she pours into his mouth. He didn't really react to it at the time. And he is, in the vision, is very dim, like in your memory, whereas she is super, super bright. There's almost an aura around her that is bright. And she sort of gives off, I think the closest thing I would equate to is it reminds you of when when they're draped in sort of moonlight, when they're lit up by a full moon. She seems very content and also very empowered. And if you'd like to know more, I'm happy to see you make a hard power roll.
All right.
To see how much of your own memory you're willing to delve into.
Okay, I've got 70 in POW. 18.
Okay.
So I think I'm really just sort of focusing in on it, because the last time I thought about this memory and thought back to it, I was kind of skirting it a bit because it was a very traumatic memory for a small child at the time. But now that everything's gone on and actually had a run-in with Alexander, and he keeps talking about his mother, or he says our mother, but I don't believe him on that. I think I'm actually just going to close my eyes and pull into my seat and actually really try to remember everything I saw through the eyes of that small me back when I was 8 years old.
Your visions continues. You replay a lot of the same parts of that vision over again, but you start to see it from different angles. And what you begin to see is that the woman who's draped in light, this woman that at some point coupled with your father, you realize that as the perspective of it draws back real slow, you see that there are other people there in the crowd. And the other people there in the crowd are people that you know. They're important families. They're members of the aristocracy, or the peerage for that matter. There are more people that know about, if this truly happened, there are more people in England that know that this is a true event. And it really isn't until you get sort of backed away from that childhood memory and you see the space, this forested space for what it is, that you realize that you're not in England. You're somewhere else. That the space that they were standing on isn't the same space. So the space isn't Maplebrook. It's somewhere else. The trees aren't the same. They're older. They're far thicker. The coverage is denser. And you also realize that the woman draped in this beautiful, what looks like a dress made out of white feathers, is also far, far along pregnant. Likely due soon. And instead of, in the more English tradition of hiding that, her ritual robes cut open and you can see her belly, which has tons of different paint marks on, different swirls and symbols, all seemingly done by fingerprint. And her belly moves and turns like something's kicking inside of it. And it turns again. And there's this press out of digits. And you hear your father cough and you snap out of it.
Nope, don't like that.
Now you're back in your room and it's quiet and the silence is unnerving.
Going to just sort of shift in my seat a bit just to make some noise to break the silence. And then just sort of shake my head and mutter, Father, what were you up to? Does the imagery that I remember with her robe and the headdress, does that remind me of anything I've read?
You could make a occult roll based off of some of the imagery that you see to see if it lines up with anything.
Okay. Let's see. My occult, 67. And I rolled a 53, so
Yeah, there's a couple of goddesses that this sort of lines up with, given that so many of them take on very similar forms in touchstones throughout history. This feels like, especially because the robe of feathers, it feels very much like the pagan goddess Ishtar, who is a goddess of love and clearly sexuality and thus fertility. You get a lot of those vibes. The pregnant belly doesn't hurt either.
Nope. Probably reminds me a bit of that pamphlet I picked up in France.
Probably.
At least that imagery is something I'm more familiar with, which I think is kind of reassuring because it's a cultish kind of imagery I know something about and not the kind of horrors that melt somebody's brain by reading about them, I hope.
Clearly has the same sort of darker skin tones. She doesn't have at all European skin tones. And she's gorgeous. She's not your mother, which is of course concerning, but at least you don't think.
Father always had a thing for strange women and strong ones, except when it was Mum.
You know what, though? The two of you have the same eye color. You sort of rattle that around a little bit and then try to sweep the thought away.
I'm sure it's just coincidence. Absolute coincidence. I mean, pot French probably has something to do with that. Similar eye color.
We'll leave you there for the moment. After dinner, Richard and Maggie, you're heading to the next hotel for drinks?
I think we should.
I think that's the plan.
Well then, Maggie, which hotel should we go to next?
Well, he was going to talk to the porters. Did he come back and say anything to us?
Yeah, he comes back and lets you know that the porters helped him get just the single suitcase that he came with back onto the train.
No.
And the word was that he was continuing east.
Richard, I'm concerned that he got what he came here for and has left.
Right. I don't know what to do. What do you think?
Well, I'm not entirely sure either.
I guess we should get your part.
Oh, absolutely. I just feel so bad that I'm assuming that man has stolen the device from you.
Yes.
At least that's my fear. I don't know otherwise why he would be here and then leave suddenly. He seems to be one step ahead of us at every turn.
Yes. It's very frustrating. Once again, I was thinking I could have used the device to see where he was, but of course I can't because I don't have it anymore. Ugh. Oh, I don't know. Maybe... let's have another drink. There's no point in going anywhere else. We could have another one here. What do you think?
Yes. Perhaps we could purchase a bottle.
Yes, maybe that waiter will actually fill my glass this time, rather than just yours.
The waiter comes back. You do get your refill this time, Professor.
Yes, thank you.
My other concern is that now that he has the device, he's going to... I don't know, he's going to set up some sort of trap for us or head us off at the pass, or perhaps he's going to try to get to the next piece before we can. Though, it seems silly, we have all of the rest. But it feels like a game of cat and mouse, and we are not the cat, Richard.
I do feel very much like a mouse at the minute. Everybody else seems to know what's going on other than us. I bet if you were to ask that waiter over there, he'd have a better idea as to where these parts are and what they all do and where the device is. I bet everybody knows everything.
Well, we know where the next one is, Richard, but everyone's just dilly-dallying around.
Yes, where did we go wrong, though? I thought we were very careful. I mean, do you ever get the feeling that you're on some sort of stage and people are watching you? Other than in this case, we're the actors and the actresses and we're unaware that we're on this stage. We're just there with eyes, people looking at us from afar. I don't know. Yeah, like Smith described in the lecture. We were able to peek in on others, and I was wondering, I don't know, maybe someone's... I don't know, it's ridiculous.
No, I understand completely what you're saying, Richard. It seems like everyone is one step ahead of us, and we're just performing for their enjoyment.
Yes, we're not fools, are we? I mean, they must have some sort of edge, something over us, some ability or device of their own.
Not sure what, though. They keep putting the pieces together faster than we can. This Alexander, he's heading us off at every point.
I wonder.
What is it, Richard?
Oh, you remember that strange person we encountered? Claimed they were Simon's wife or something.
I don't think I could forget them.
No. There seems to be a lot of people interested and involved in our business. I wonder if somebody else has a connection as well, perhaps. Oh, we don't know much about Mr. Fraser, do we? He doesn't seem to like me very much.
We certainly don't. He has not been very forthcoming, I don't think, and he's always so uptight.
He is, isn't he? It's like we're spoiling something for him.
Very by the books, trying to keep us in line all the time. But really, he just wants us to do what he wants.
I wonder if he's part of a larger organization, and maybe there are people watching us, people maybe at the next station that we're unaware of.
He's feeding them information, or we're just pawns in his game.
Yes. Maybe he's a pawn as well, and others are feeding him. Or I don't know, maybe...
Well, we won't let them get away with it, will we, Richard?
No, we should be careful. I think I can trust you.
I would put my life on it, Richard.
Yes, just don't go jumping out any more windows, and I think we're fine.
Well, I think if you were given the chance to fly, you would try it as well.
Another one of these, and I might give it a go. And by this point, Richard's emptied his glass, and he's sort of looking expectantly for another waiter.
Oh, yeah, no, the waiter's not but 2 or 3 steps away, and you're being refilled.
Thank you, my good man.
Of course, sir. You can see it's the man that you previously gave a tenner to.
Of course.
And Richard is probably going to get worse and worse as the evening draws on
Yeah.
and drinks more and more wine.
Okay, so if we dial the clock forward, say, an hour or so, and Richard's had a couple more glasses of wine, for your part, Maggie, if you're not drinking as fast, or maybe you are, you might...
Maggie can keep up.
Okay, fair. No.
If I this has literally never come up, but my pulp talent is iron liver.
Perfect.
Fantastic. Okay, so if I'll take a little creative license here, and I'll just say that the two of you have a wonderful evening, in the sense that glasses keep getting refilled. The evening crowd picks up here, kind of fills in, the music pipes up. You're suddenly having a very, very good time. Richard, you don't remember the last time you had this much fun. Later on in the evening, all worries and doubts have been cast away. This wine, whatever it is that you're drinking, it's fantastic, actually. That said, I'd like you to make me a power roll.
Oh, no.
Both of us?
No, just Richard.
Okay.
You are fine, Miss, Iron Gut.
Great.
Right, so 32, which is a hard success.
Fantastic. You have a 32, which is a hard success. You, mid-party, mid-romp enjoyment, you get a flash of something. And it must be when perhaps a passing headlight comes through, drives by the hotel. You feel your eyes sort of burn for a second, just a moment, shield them a little bit, and you hear a champagne bottle pop. And you sort of reflexively lurch forward a little bit as if something hit you. And you begin to go into this sort of strange state where for a moment everything is a little bit like molasses. And out of it, you turn and you hear someone say something to you. And they say, "Mrs. Griffith sends her regards." And then the world snaps forward, and there's a man pouring another glass of wine for you. More wine, sir?
Maggie?
Yes, Richard. What is it?
I believe I've had, I don't know what you'd call it, déjà vu, but like a recollection of something that happened on
It's called
the
a memory, Richard.
train.
If you
Yes,
remembered
yes,
something.
but I mean, this was it came to me in the same way that déjà vu might occur. I mean, a memory you just remember and you think, but anyway, that's not relevant. The person that shot me claimed to be connected with a Mrs. Griffiths. It's that one we were talking about earlier. It was her who arranged to have me shot, I think. I remember it as clear as day now. I was on the station and I was trying to assess what on earth was going on with the engine, and I still need to. I think it was very strange, but I was going to board the train. I think they'd got fed up with me and my investigations, and the person that I saw said, with regards from Mrs. Griffith.
When he says this to you, Maggie, you are obviously looking at him, your own, wine glass nearby, and normally you would just, this is Richard prattling on about something else. His eyes are spinning in kaleidoscopic colors.
Richard, your eyes are dizzying. You must be onto something here. Perhaps we were right all along that they're all working against us.
Yes. How do you know I'm dizzy?
Well, no, dizzying. Yeah, your eyes, they look, the colors in them, they're spinning.
Oh. Well,
Don't make eye contact with the waitstaff right now.
No, everything's spinning a little bit. I'm a little lightheaded. I mean, you would be too, but
If it was Mrs. Griffith, then how do we know it didn't come from Mr. Griffith?
But he's been protective of me. He's very much, but he said he's tried to keep me safe, and there was an incident back in the flat with a body, and he managed to sort that out, and it can't be.
So you think his organization is working against him then?
I don't know. We should ask him. Let's go back now. We could get some wine, and we could make out like we're gonna have a party, and we could feed him wine, and I'm sure he would become very compliant and tell us everything.
Especially when we reveal to him that we know.
Yes, precisely. You're right. Yes.
Your big reveal. Everything will be going swimmingly. Just three friends having a drink, and then all of a sudden, pow!
Yes.
Your wife or whoever that was shot Richard.
And we could judge his reaction and see, and it'll be obvious.
Then we'll know if he was in on it or if he wasn't.
That sounds like a fantastic idea. And so I'm going to table that for the next episode. And thank you all for joining us on this episode of Horror on the Orient Express, where we've certainly had way too much wine, likely too many potential vampire reveals, and then clearly and most assuredly, no one is our mother. I think that on that note, I'm going to end. So again, have a good night, and we'll see you back next week.